This is the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom show, The Wake Up Call, on WCOM LP, Chapel Hill and Carrboro, 103.5 on your FM dial, or live streaming at WCOMFM.org. You can also watch the show on the People's Channel after a week's delay on Thursday night at 10, Friday morning at 6 a.m., or Tuesday at noon. The show will also be available on our YouTube channel, Wilf Wake Up Call. I'm Iris Schwinzer here with our host, Lori Hoyt, and Emily O'Hare on the camera. Today our special guest is Dawna Jones.
Thanks, Iris. We're here again on another Wednesday afternoon, and we are celebrating Black History Month. So we have Dawna Jones with us today, who is with our local Chapel Hill, Carrboro, NAACP, and I think you're the secretary?
That's correct.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you could come. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay. Our sound system isn't the best, and we've got to get our mouths close to this microphone without quite kissing it. And so Dawna, before we talk about your work with the NAACP and other things that you're involved with on campus, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and all of that.
Sure. So I'm Dawna Jones, everyone. Thanks for listening. I am a resident of Chapel Hill. I have lived here in North Carolina for about 7 years now, and I'm originally from East Orange, New Jersey.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yes, yep. So
I'm from Long Island.
Oh wow, yep. So us Northerners down here in the South, living the Southern dream down here, loving it. So I moved here from Westchester, Pennsylvania, actually, for a job at UNC. I'm a social worker by trade, and I have a background in higher education. So I moved here to be the case manager in student affairs at UNC, and I have moved up to be an assistant dean of students now, working mostly with students in crisis and supporting basic needs on campus.
Oh, I didn't know what your work was. I know you worked on campus. Wow. Well, I'm a retired social worker, so good for you.
Good work.
Yeah. So this is a new thing to be the assistant dean?
Yes, so I got promoted just about 2 years ago, so
Uh-huh.
after being in the role of case manager for about 4 years.
Wow, so that sounds really interesting, but also stressful.
Yes, there's no shortage of fun, as I call it, always something to work out or someone to support, which is why I got into the work, so I really enjoy it.
Yeah. So what was your motivation or growing up to become a social worker, somebody who tries to help people? An activist is somebody who tries to make the world a better place. What got you your motivation and inspiration?
Yeah, as my grandfather would say, I got it honest. I have a family full of social workers, even if they weren't all trained in social work. But really it was my mom. She was a really staunch advocate for people in general. She is a person who literally would have taken the shirt off of her back. I mean, I've seen her empty out our cabinets and our cupboards to help a family in need or a neighbor in need. Honestly, it used to annoy me when I was a kid because I was like, we're not rich, we need this stuff too. And my mom would be like, it'll come back to us, God will provide, or whatever it was. And so I watched that my whole life growing up, and as soon as I got a chance, I figured out what my skills were, and I used those skills to try to help people, and it's been what I've been doing ever since.
Oh, that's a wonderful story. Yeah. So your mother and just your family.
Oh yeah. I have sisters who are in armed services, who are in the police. My brother is a supporter of, he does health and wellness activities in his community. So yeah, we are a family who just tries to do our best to support other people and to try to make the world a little bit of a better place.
Wonderful. So you came here to North Carolina about 7 years ago?
That's right. I moved here. I originally moved right here in Carrboro. I lived in Carrboro for the first 4.5 years, and actually I lived right off of 54, not too far from here. And then I moved to Chapel Hill just about 2 years ago.
So So how do you like the South now that you've been there?
Well, except for some of the sweatier days, I really love it. I don't see myself moving back up north. I've really made a home here. What I love about the Chapel Hill and Carborough communities is that I can find family here, I can find friends here, I can find people to be supportive and people who share my values and, you know, will help me to make a difference. And that's what I found in the NAACP, that's what I found in our local elected officials. So I've really made a home that I feel comfortable with, and I hope that I get to stay here for a long time.
That sounds wonderful. So how long ago did you join the NAACP? It's been a few years at least.
It's been a few years. I was trying to do the math in my head. I think I joined officially closer to the end of 2016, and then excuse me, and then I became the membership chair. I was actually just telling this story earlier today, where I was talking to a colleague and she was asking me, how do I get involved? And I said, well, the NAACP is usually a good place to start, and if you want to, they will put you to work. So when I joined the branch, I joined because Trayvon Martin had just been murdered, and I felt like, you know, I had time, I had energy, I had space, and I was just sitting around. I was tweeting, but I wasn't doing. And so I felt like I needed to get involved, and so I Googled and I searched, and I said, okay, there's a local NAACP, let's start there. And so I went to a few meetings, and I'm sure, as you all know, as soon as you've gone to a couple meetings, someone's like, hey, who are you? What are you doing? And what do you want to do so we can get you connected? And maybe 2 meetings later, Reverend Campbell, who was the president of the branch at that time, you know, he whispered in my ear, he said, I think I have a role for you. And by the time I got back to my seat, he said, Sister Jones is going to be the membership chair. So that's how I really got involved in terms of being an officer in the NAACP. And from there, I helped to grow the branch membership and started going to some of the things at the state level to talk about our membership and what kinds of things we were doing. And the biggest thing I was able to do as a young person was just make us more accessible. So I started with our Twitter, then I got our Facebook updated and created an Instagram and some other things, updated our website just so people could find us. And so a lot more people are able to see the work that we're doing, and we started getting recognition across the state. So because they wanted to know how to duplicate the efforts that we were able to put online. And then after that, Anna Richards took over the presidency, and if you know Anna, she is a dynamic and fierce individual, and so getting to watch her do what she do inspired me to go over to the NAACP Next Generation program, which is a young adult program. They train you for leadership within the NAACP, and it trains you how to be either a branch president or a state level leader. So I learned a lot through that program, and just that was what inspired me to apply to be go through the election process for the secretary role.
Okay. Well, so you're to blame for all of this new membership and all the Facebook, Twitter stuff that is still kind of difficult for me. And it's not just because of my age. I know a lot of people my age who are really good at that sort of thing, but I've just been particularly dragging my feet. But but I know it's important, and I know whether it's the NAACP or the Women's International League or any of them, we're all wanting to encourage and involve younger people. Absolutely. And we're going to have to learn those skills or have that happen in our organization, because that's where young people communicate, and it's just really tough sometimes for some of us who are not that good at it. Yeah. Well, that's been such a rejuvenating thing for the NAACP. You and there's some other younger people are coming, and one of the things I think that Anna Richards was really smart about, that each committee, they want to have 2 generations, an older person and then a younger person, so that they are bringing the younger people along into more leadership roles and more responsible roles, which I think was really, really smart.
Oh yeah, Anna is a really intentional leader, and I think that is one of the things that has helped set us apart, because we have an older branch, but we do have that committee leadership that is within dual generations. And it helps not only to bring the younger folks in and helps to train us to be leaders later, but it just gives a different perspective for each committee. It helps committees to know what different sides of our community and different parts of our communities are thinking about issues, but it also helps us to all be informed. I know there was nothing I knew about local government or about local issues until I really got immersed in the NAACP. That's how I learned what a county commissioner is how I learned, where my tax dollars are really going and how to make change from a systemic level in those ways. All of that stuff was because of my training, not only within the local branch, but within the state level NAACP and the NAACP Next Generation program. All of those really helped me to become a better and more engaged citizen.
Yeah, well, I knew you were real involved, but I did not know the extent, so this is fascinating. So I did not know that you were that involved at state level things. And what was that other organization for the younger generation?
It's NAACP Next Gen.
Next Gen.
Yep, and that's the program that is for ages 21 to 35.
Huh.
So they specifically try to find young leaders in local branches. Because we do have a youth council, and that's a national program within NAACP. So this is kind of that pipeline for the in-between. So you're not quite a branch president or anything like that, and you're aged out of the college section.
Yeah.
So this is for those folks who are in the middle to keep us engaged in the NAACP and in the work, but also to help train us for leadership.
Well, that, somehow I missed that. I knew we had the youth group, and I knew we had the college group, but I didn't know about that, and I'm impressed. That's really smart.
Yeah, it's a fantastic program. We went through a year of training, so you have to apply to be in the program, and if you get accepted, you go through a cohort model. So I was in the first cohort, and I graduated the program in 2018, but we go through our ceremony at the 2019 National Convention. So that's when you get to meet the president and CEO of the NAACP and a lot of national board members. Actually, right now we're in the process of applying to have a board member be our mentor. So these are folks who are on the national board for NAACP, but they're also in so many industries. A lot of them are CEOs, presidents, doctors, lawyers, pharmacists, and those kinds of things. So we'll have personal one-on-one mentorship from board members now that we've graduated from the program.
So when you went into that Next Gen group, study group, was this from this area, or was it the state?
Oh, it's a national program. So we had people from all over Canada and all over the United States, and then we had to travel 3 times within the year. So we went to a national convention together, and we did trainings there. Most of those trainings were about voter engagement, voter education programs, and then GOTV programs. We also went through programs about trainings through fundraising, through political action. Basically every committee that the national organization has, we went through an in-depth training with one of the leaders at the national level for those. So if it was about health, we had the national director for the health programs and NAACP come talk to us about what the efforts were and how we could get involved and bring those back to the local level.
So most of your training would be when you go to the national convention?
Right, so we went to nationals, excuse me, and then we had 2 other destinations that we went to. One was with the Boston NAACP, so they hosted us there for a weekend. So for 3 days, we went through an intensive training. We got to meet the mayor. We got to meet Congresswoman Ayanna Presley was there with us before she was actually elected. We got to meet the new DA there, who was also going through the election process. So we've gotten to meet some really dynamic leaders who have come and talked to us about the importance of young people getting civically involved in a meaningful way. And so I've had the privilege to go all over the country and learn from these folks and learn different things that I can bring back here, but also that I can try to help on a national level as much as I can.
Well, that is really exciting. I knew it was going to be an interesting interview, but I'm just thrilled about that. That is such a good model for other organizations about getting young people involved and giving them so much training and skills that keeps them involved in the organization, but it also helps them grow and really take a leadership role.
Yeah, I think there were three people at the national level for NAACP that were integral in that process, and they really fought to make sure that there was a training program and a pipeline program for young adults, because a lot of times you lose people after college because they're so gung-ho and they're ready to go, and then if their local branch isn't as active or they don't know quite how to find us, again, the importance of social media to my generation, if they don't find you on social media, then it's like you don't exist. And so this is a great program that funnels people into branches and makes sure that we get connected and then keeps us doing the work.
Wow, so I'm so glad you're here. I mean, we're learning more than we knew we were going to learn. So how long has that been going on, that generational?
Well, I was in the inaugural class, so
Okay.
that's just been a few years now, and there's going to be a new class coming in every year. And the National Board did vote at the last national convention to make sure that this is now in the Constitution for NAACP. So this program will continue in perpetuity, and they've been putting funding into it, and people can donate to it specifically to make sure that the program remains robust.
Great. And do you have any idea about how many across the country were involved in?
Well, that's a good question. I think in my cohort there were what was called 2 tracks, and so the first track I think had 53 people, and then there might have been closer to 60 in the second. So I think in our first class there were at least 100 of us, and I'm not sure how many are in this class currently, but they're bringing through at least 50 a year.
Wow, that is so heartening, because the more we look at the world around us, it looks like so much hope we're placing on young people, whether it's climate change or anything right now.
Yeah.
The older generation has really failed miserably in many ways. I mean, a lot of people have tried, but when you just look at, the way the world is going with climate, with how our country's going, it can be really discouraging, and a lot of us are placing hope with the young people seeming to understand better than the majority in our older generation seem to understand.
Well, I think your generation, I mean, you guys set the framework, you guys did the hard lift, and we just have to keep pushing and keep grinding and making sure that we hold our leaders accountable to making sure that we make this world better. And it's not just NAACP. The Southern Environmental Law Center also has a Next 30 program.
Oh, do
where
they?
They have a program who I'll be joining their board next year to have, professionals under 40 join their section of their board so that they have that same generational push and more information coming from the next generation. And then right here in Chapel Hill, Carrboro, Councilman Alan Wansey started the Training for Action and Progress program, the TAP program, which taps younger minority members of the community to learn more about local government. And so through that program, we learned all about each level of local government, what those positions do. Democracy North Carolina came to the training and taught us all about, everything from commissioners and town council people to agriculture, all of those different positions that are elected officials that are not as well known or understood. They went through each little role and explained, who does what and why and how you can impact the work that they're doing. And so out of that program, Ty Wynn, who is now Ty Wynn, councilman.
Oh, yeah, the new young,
Yep.
yeah.
So he and I were both in that training program together, and now he is a councilman by 24 votes. So, these programs really help to create sincere leadership for folks who really want to do the work. And I think there's room for a lot of people to get involved, and I hope that more of our younger Chapel Hill, Carrboro citizens will join us in these efforts.
Yeah, well, that is so heartening. So you're saying in many different places and organizations, there's that recognition about really identifying and encouraging and supporting young adults and giving them some of the knowledge base and tools and skills to really, and that would make them stay involved, to know that they really could make a difference. It's not just, voting here and there or tweeting here and there, but really, really that deeper, committed, responsible involvement.
Yeah, I think that's really important. What I'm hearing is, folks are looking for a reason to get involved. Everybody has an issue that is near and dear to their heart, but they need to be engaged. And we need to, especially with young people, we need to say, here's where it is, here's what you can do, and here's how long it's going to take, right? Because a lot of us are pulled in so many different directions, and so you have to be clear about what the time commitment is and how people can get involved right away. And again, you have to keep communicating. You have to keep making sure that people know where you are, what you need, and all of those things. But it's also important to try not to just keep tapping the same people. I try to activate folks everywhere that I go. People say to me all the time, oh, I see you everywhere. Oh, you're involved in everything. And I'm like, yeah, if you would get involved, then I don't have to be everywhere. So come on and jump in on the work. And there are a lot of dynamic young people in our community who are really looking to get involved. So I hope many other organizations will start to create next generation type programs to help engage the folks who are interested in the work that they do.
Yeah, and I know that your official title in the NAACP, the secretary, that's a pretty involved job, a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. The secretary is really an ad hoc member of each committee, making sure that the word is getting out about committee meetings, about branch meetings, making sure that our website and social media and communications are up to date. We're working with the communications committee to do that. And shout out to Evan Markfield, who is doing a phenomenal job with our communications and has taken a lot of that off of my plate. So I really appreciate it. But it's a team effort. We have an awesome team with the NAACP here in Chapel Hill, Carborough. We have a vibrant community who is often right behind us. I mean, every month we meet on the first Saturday of every month, and there's no less than 30 people in those rooms on a Saturday afternoon. So that shows commitment. They're spending the middle of their day with us when they could be running errands or going out for cocktails or whatever it is. They're here with us doing the work. So that's Chapel Hill, that's Carborough.
Yeah, no, it's always a pretty full room and a high enthusiasm.
Oh yeah,
a lot of good energy. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I know that in addition to that, and like you said, people say I see you everywhere. So you have a full-time job on campus.
That's right.
As a support social worker for students in crisis.
That's right. Yep. So I'm an assistant dean of students and student affairs. So that means students who are struggling with anything. It could be basic needs. It could be academics. It could be mental health and family emergencies. Those kinds of things. I support the work that happens around supporting those students, graduate students, professional students, and undergraduate students for UNC.
So you're the one in charge, and you have staff to help.
Oh, I'm not the one in charge. I am the staff to help, though. Yeah, we have a team. Basically, it's a case management team. That's how the community social work works on our campus. The dean of students is the director of that office, and there are 3 assistant deans and then 2 case managers.
So you have 2 case managers, and you.
And 3 assistant deans, not just including me, and then 2 others. Yeah.
Okay. So you're not the only one.
Right. No, for 30,000 students, I hope we would have more than one.
That's what I meant about staff. I mean,
Our staff, our full team is about 7 or 8 people. And then we also have the Student Veteran Center as a part of our department and the University Attendance Office as well.
Yes, so you have a little help.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're doing the good work over there.
Yeah. So, we're a little too early for the...
We can do it.
Yeah, because then I wanted to go about what she does on campus. Okay.
This is Will's Wake Up Call on WCOMLP, Chapel Hill and Carborough, 103.5 FM. You can stream us live at WCOMFM.org. Today our guest is Dawna Jones.
Okay. Does anybody have any announcements? It's going to be Valentine's Day, and I've heard a strong rumor that Bernie is going to be in Chapel Hill on Valentine's Day, the 14th? Durham. In Durham at the convention center at maybe 11:30 in the morning. You'll have to check all this out. I just got this from seeing somebody's message wanting a ride to go. And so check it out if you're interested. Bernie is certainly doing well. So if you would like to see him, if you don't already know about it, check it out. It sounds like he's gonna be in Durham this Friday, and could be very, very exciting. Okay, that's the only thing I know besides sending out lots of love to all our family and friends and on Valentine's Day, and I guess that's about it. I know there's things going on, but I didn't get to check what they were. So we're talking to Dawna Jones, and she is the secretary for a local NAACP. She's moved up from membership chair, and she is involved in so many more things than I even realized. But I had heard, and that's what I wanted to get to, that not only with the NAACP, which is a big job, and then all this other training that you're doing in terms of civic engagement and skills, etc., but that on campus, since you work on campus, that you're also involved in some activist groups on campus. So if you could tell us about that. We're celebrating, by the way, folks, this is Black History Month, and we're celebrating it, and we're having Dawna, and next week we're going to have LaTondra Strong from Hillsborough,
Awesome.
who's
She's
another
great.
little bit older than you, but not that old, activist, strong, tremendous strong woman in Hillsborough, who has been organizing against some of the Civil War flags, etc., and racist comments at the schools, has been going to so many school board meetings, and is now running for the school board.
Yes, for Orange County.
For Orange County. And she is a terrific organizer and such a committed, terrific person. So we're going to have LaTondra on next week, and the following week, again, still celebrating Black History Month, we're going to have Barbara Fouché from the Carborough Council, and we're going to have Renee Price from the Commissioners together talking about the census, because there's been a lot of misinformation, and they really want to get the word out about how important it is. And they're representing, I think, all of our councils and everybody there. They may even bring a few other people with them. So we're celebrating Black History Month on this program as well as we can, and we're trying to do our best to get the word out about what's needed and what we hope for to make a better world here. And Dawna Jones is certainly doing her part. And so on campus, if you have a little energy left after working a full-time job, what are some of the things that you're involved with there?
Sure. So right now I have the privilege of serving as the chair for the Carolina Black Caucus, and that is our faculty and staff Black advocacy group on campus, which just celebrated its 45th year in existence. And so we had our 45th anniversary brunch in December just to celebrate the work that this organization has been doing at Carolina for so long. And so I get to chair that organization. Just today we had an event about civic engagement, because we had, it's Black History Month, so we had our Black elected panel today, which Barbara Fouché and Renee Price both got to serve on today. We had Senator Fouché as well as Representative Robert Reeves out of Durham, and Representative James Galliard, who is over in Rocky Mount, and then we also had Councilman Bouancey. So we had a great panel today. And then Caitlin Metzer from over at You Can Vote came and talked to us about what's on the ballot and just how people can be more engaged with the process, just understanding not only do we have a presidential primary, but what's on the back of that ballot, who all is on there, the treasurer, the commissioner for agriculture, soil and, all these things that a lot of people just don't know about. So she talked us through the ballot from top to bottom, just to understand not only what roles are on there, but which ones are decided in the primary versus which ones we'll get to vote again on in November. And
speaking of that, that's something somebody had mentioned to me recently, and it made me really think about it. How do we get the word out, about all these, everybody hears a lot about the presidential candidates, maybe more than you want, but how do we get the word out about all these other, which are so important, whether it's school board, a council member, secretary of labor, all of these things, state and local positions, And we don't have, especially in Chapel Hill Harbor, we have the Tar Heel, but a lot of people don't get that.
Yeah.
We don't have, and the News and Observer is much more Wake County oriented. There is the Indy, and I think the Indy usually does give you some information. But is there some sheet that one can get to pass out to people to let them know about these things?
Yeah, so You Can Vote does have, I wish I had brought it with me, they have a two-sided sheet that tells you all the positions that are on the ballot right now. And they give you a pretty quick synopsis, not only of what the role is, but why you might care about that. So it basically says if you care about health care, these are the roles that are on the ballot that you want to make sure you're more informed about. If you care about the budget, if you care about citizens' voting rights, if you care about, felons and their ability to vote, then this is what role or what election you want to follow a little more closely. So I encourage folks to go to youcanvote.org. It's just youcanvote.org.
With the YOU or?
Yes, YOU, yes. Or you can follow them on Twitter, just at YouCanVote, and you can find all those materials there.
Oh.
And they have fridge cards. They have a small version. They have a big version, whichever one you need. And they are a local nonprofit organization. So I encourage folks to drop a couple dollars their way because they really are doing the work to keep our citizens engaged and informed about even what's just on the ballot.
Yeah, because I live in an apartment complex, First Baptist in Manly Estates, and there's 40 apartments. And then a lot of times people are asking me, and a lot of times I'm more informed than I am this year. I've had a few health issues, but I try to get the information for them, and I'm a little late this year. So this is great. I could go to that.
Absolutely. You can vote, and Democracy North Carolina also has a similar thing where they can share information and they will send it to you. All you have to do is just go to their website or go to their social media and just tell them how many you need, and you can get them sent right to you or find a way to pick them up if you prefer.
Yeah, well that's really helpful because somebody was asking me how are we supposed to know who to vote for and all these little things that you don't hear much about,
Yeah, I always tell people find an organization that really focuses on the things that are important to you and see if they're endorsing folks. So if LGBTQ rights are important to you, see who Equality North Carolina is endorsing. If look for the Sierra Club or look for the Durham's Committee on the Affairs of Black People, whatever it is that whoever those organizations are that are really important to you, that focus on your issues, that's at least a little bit of a way to narrow it down. I'm one of those people who lives in that weird area where I live in Chapel Hill, but I'm also in Durham County, and so I have to follow our local municipal things here in Chapel Hill, but then I have to follow the county level things over in Durham.
Oh,
so
that's interesting.
I have a lot of work to do in terms of my ballot just to even be sure who's who and what's what, and but I try to do the work, and then I'm having this thing called a primary prep party where people are going to just come to my house. We're going to put up a big sticky note on the wall, and we're going to go down that sample ballot and say, okay, who knows what about these candidates, and what do you think, who are you going with, and that just at least gives us an opportunity to share our opinions, and then when it's time for you to go in that voting booth, you have everything you need to make a decision.
Yeah, and I've always, relied on from the NAACP and WILF and just getting information, but I realize when some people ask me, they don't have those places, or contacts, and so I was just trying to think what I can tell them besides relying on me.
Right.
So that's really helpful. I'm going to check that out to get a bunch of copies of it and maybe even have a little get together where I live, and to say anybody who wants to know, have questions about who to vote for, come on down. We can
it's a great way to do it. I mean, and it provides a social aspect. I like to do mine with libations, whatever. But whatever works for you, you can always just go to the NC Voter search and look up your sample ballot, print that out, and then just be able to go through it and figure out who knows what about each race so that you can be more informed before voting starts. And early voting starts tomorrow. February 13th, it's upon us, so we've got to get that information and get ready to go.
It's kind of crept up pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was at the senior center this morning. They had a author, which mentioning because it was particularly interesting with being Black History Month, and it's a writer about the slave narratives, and the whole issue of class in terms of when there was slavery, and just very, very, he spent 40 years just studying the slave narratives and has written a book, which I should have brought with me his name, but I don't. But anyhow, it was very interesting. It's very well attended. And so I saw all the voting machines lined up at the senior center, so that's one of the places people go. And I thought, oh my gosh, the time is here.
It's time.
It crept up on me, yeah. So, okay, so one thing you're involved with then is the Carolina Black Caucus.
Yes. So with that organization, we're doing a lot of work just around faculty staff advocacy. So looking at race and discrimination, looking at how we retain our faculty and staff on campus, and also supporting student organizations and the work that they're doing to advocate for racial equity and inclusion on our campus. We spend a lot of time just trying to build community for folks, so we've built out our social events because we were doing a lot of advocacy. That work is really important. But we realized there are people who are the only Black person in their department. And so if they don't have a community, then they're not likely to stay. And so we spent the last year and a half really focused just on community while doing the activism. So making sure we send a welcome card to new faculty and staff on campus, making sure we have monthly events that they can come to and meet other people, making sure that they know, where the hair salons are, if they're interested in finding a new church or things like that. So we've spent a lot of time just trying to build out our relationships on campus so folks know where to find us, and if they're struggling, then we can of course advocate as well, but we just want to give them a place to call home. For me, when I moved to Carolina from New Jersey, it was a huge transition, and I really wasn't expecting that. I don't know what I thought it would be like right away, but as a person who talks with their hands and I'm very expressive, I had a couple challenges first getting here in terms of what North Carolina culture is, especially at UNC, where folks were like, okay, you need to sit down and be a little more quiet, or, we don't do it that way here. I heard a lot of, well, this is how we've always done it. And so I had to quickly figure out where my place was and how I can be my authentic self but still be successful here. And it was those first couple years were really hard. I almost didn't stick around, and then I found someone told me about the Black Caucus. I went to a meeting or two, and I said, oh, this is where my people are. This is where everybody who understands what I'm going through are, and they welcomed me. It was like a room full of cousins, and I felt like, okay, I have what I need to be able to make it here, and I'm glad that I stuck with it because I'm really happy and excited to be here now. But those first couple years were tough.
I think it's much more of a culture shock coming from north to south than I realized too, because I came at an even harder time in the 60s.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
And I had lived in two foreign countries, not that long, a year in one, a couple years in the other. But I found coming here harder because I guess I knew there was going to be some differences, but I had no idea what I was in for. Yeah, it's very difficult. Yeah, but I love it now too. I feel like an adopted daughter.
Yeah, once you make it over the hump, it's like, okay, we're all in. But it is tough at first trying to figure out how to be who you are and be within the culture here as well.
Well, what helped a lot too is that the South also was changing. So the first 5 years were the worst, but things were starting to change, and then of course I moved to Chapel Hill after being in Durham, so that helped a lot too. At that time. So, excuse me, I'm going to take a little sip of water here. So, what is there's another organization too that you're...
Oh, so I also get to serve on the Commission for History, Race, and a Way Forward on campus, which I know a lot of people have been following. Our new chancellor, Kevin Guskovitz, has created this commission to work on race relations and reckoning with our history on campus. And so I've been appointed to that commission to represent the work of the Black Caucus, but also just to help support the effort in moving us forward as a campus.
So this has come out of the whole Silent Sam.
It has. So Chancellor Folt, when she was here, she did have a commission, or I think it was called a History and Race Task Force at that time. So this will be building on some of that work. But it did. Some of it is in reaction to all of the things around Silent Sam and just all of the things around campus in general that are race-based, where our campus is tense, still. Especially today, we just learned that the settlement will be vacated. The judge did throw out the lawsuit that was from the Sons of the Confederate Veterans, and so.
Wait a minute, so say this again.
Yeah.
The judge.
Yeah, so the judge today, there was a hearing about the settlement.
Yes.
And the judge threw it out. He said that they did not have standing to sue, and so the settlement cannot stand. And so
Was this Judge Baddour?
Yep, just today, just this morning. This morning.
He finally got the light, huh?
So that means the conversation is still going, though. While I'm excited, I'm ecstatic. I think this is the right decision. There's no way our university should have been paying $2.5 million to a known, basically terrorist organization, whatever you want to call it, a white supremacist organization at minimum. We should not be spending our money, university money, no matter where it comes from. So a lot of people say, oh, well, it's not state money. It doesn't matter. We can't fund white supremacy. That's the bottom line. But that means that the conversation about Silent Sam does not stop. And
that might be okay. Excuse me, I'm kind of hoarse. But that it's a conversation that we need to have.
Right.
And if the conversation goes on, I see that as a big teaching moment. And I think the university had a big teaching moment with that settlement. I mean, that has just caused such scandal. And this organization donates money to politicians. We're giving them $2.5 million to buy the legislature. I mean, it was just crazy.
Right.
And I think it was so crazy and so terrible. I'm so glad that finally justice is happening. And yes, the conversation is going to have to go on.
Right.
And let's hope that some wiser heads are in that conversation than were in the initial one.
Yeah, I do hope so. I know that, we don't want that monument back on campus. That's what I know. But we have a lot of work to do, not just around that. We have there's a group of faculty who I'm thankful for their advocacy, trying to overturn the moratorium on the renaming of buildings on campus.
Yes, I read that.
There's a petition out, for that right now, and there are a lot of folks not only on campus but off campus here in the Chapel Hill and Carborough community who are doing the work to make sure that we hold our leaders, whether they be university leaders, state leaders, legislators, whoever they are, accountable to their constituents. And so, we want to make sure that this is a welcoming state, welcoming campus, welcoming community for all of our people who want to be here. And that can't be just a segment of people. That has to be everyone. And so we have to figure out the right way to show that our ideals as a community really reflect diversity, but also inclusion. Because we can open the door, but that doesn't mean anyone if people aren't actually included, if they don't have a voice, if they don't have resources, if they don't have what they need to be successful and authentic. A lot of times we just want people we want to open the door and we want them to fit the mold that we ask them to fit. We will let you in here, but we want you to be just like this. And that's just not realistic. We have to let people not only come in and share their voices and their opinions and do the things that they want to do, but also be themselves while they do that.
Yeah. Well, you're bringing us all kinds of good news. Then I knew that they were being sued by the Tar Heel. I knew they were being sued by the Lawyers Guild, of which our county commissioner Mark Dorison.
That's right.
Is and that's out of the civil rights group that the university wouldn't support.
That's right.
And after a promise being made to have that organization. So,
yes.
Yeah, so there's just so much going on, but hopefully this is righting a big wrong
I agree. I think at nothing else, we're making progress. There are a lot of good people who are on the ground doing the work. There are a lot of good people who believe in justice and equality, and those people are fighting every day.
Every day.
And we're making incremental progress. Every day doesn't feel that way. Some days it feels like we're just being beaten down, but most days you can at least feel the progress. You can see just that one sliver of hope where we peeled away at some little piece of it, and tomorrow is another day to do a little bit more.
And what was heartening about it was that when it occurred, the $2.5 million plus the other 74,000 was it or what, is that you didn't feel alone. There were so many people, and they started doing something about it. I mean, that was what was heartening, is that it was such a shock that so many people started saying, this is crazy, this is wrong, and then this whole movement got started, and then they were being sued, and when the Tar Heel was going to also sue them, I thought, good for the Tar Heel, you know?
They've been doing fantastic work this year. I mean, not that they haven't always, but I have been very impressed with the level of writing and the things that they have covered. I mean, they are keeping us not only to task on what's going on campus, but they've been following our local government, following, where money is going on the school board. I mean, they have been really keeping our community informed, and I don't think they get enough credit. So shout out to the Daily Tar Heel.
Shout out for sure, because now that we don't particularly have a Chapel Hill paper, they're sort of our Chapel Hill paper now. I try to get hold of it whenever we come here, or whenever I can. When I go to Weaver Street, that's another place you can get it. Absolutely. It's 3 times a week, right? Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I depend on it now as my local paper.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are doing great work over there.
Yeah. Well, let them know that even townies are wanting to read their paper. We need them. And I remember even some years ago, I forget what issue I was working on, and it was hard to get it in the local paper. Something was happening with the protest, and I called the Tar Heel, and they sent a reporter, they gave us good coverage, and I thought, boy, they are really on top of it. And these are young people, and they're becoming great journalists already.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's getting a little dark in here. We're going to put some lights on. The lighting is not very good here, so we keep it off as long as we can, but here we are. So this is a new organization, the History, Race, and the Way Forward. So that's just getting started now, and you're on it, and you're hoping some good will come out of that.
I am. We had our first meeting on Friday. You can read in the Daily Tar Heel about what was discussed and how we're going to. That first meeting was really just the chancellor's charge to the commission, helping us to understand what work that he wants the commission to embark upon, and then the co-chairs helping us to understand what way we're going to model this commission and how we're going to move forward. And the great thing I think is about it is that there are community members on the commission. So I know you all know Dolores Bailey from Empowerment, and Danita Mason Hogans, who is a 7th generation Chapel Hillian. And so we have some good voices not only from campus but also from the community who are going to help keep us to task.
Oh, that's really interesting. So how often are you going to meet?
I think we're still working that out. It'll be at least monthly, and all the meetings will be open to the public because it is a public commission, and so they should be published on the university's website every time that we meet, which I think they're working that schedule out.
So you have 2 big things on campus that you're doing.
Yes.
And your job.
And my job, and the Chapel Hill Carrboro NAACP, and I also chair the Housing Advisory Board for Chapel Hill. So I'm everywhere.
So you're on that. So what's going on with the Housing Advisory Board?
Right now we're still focused on affordable housing within the towns, and the new proposed East Town development is a consistent item on our agenda.
And what is that?
That's going to be the UNC Healthcare. What do you call it? Production or buildings that they're going to have over East Town.
Oh yeah, now I'm getting myself located. Yeah, I used to have an office there years ago.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, every day we're just trying to make sure we advocate for affordable housing, not only within that development, but with
Oh, so there will be some affordable housing?
Well, we don't know what will be yet. There's a lot of back and forth, and the town council, is in consistent meetings with UNC Healthcare about what the project really will look like. There's still a lot of uncertainty, but our board, the Housing Advisory Board, is consistently advocating for affordable housing on that project.
So UNC Healthcare wants to put up some kind of a building there?
Right, so it'll be medical facilities, and then there's lots of proposals about what else might be there, but our hope is that there will be a significant amount of affordable housing. As specifically for a lot of affordable housing is targeted at 60 to 80% of our area median income, but we're hoping that it will target a little lower than that as the have.
That would be good,
Yes,
because the
because
median
there is
income is so high.
Yes, and there is a real shortage of affordable housing, in both communities, Chapel Hill and Carrboro, but across the state and the country. So it is really important that we try to get as much affordable housing, especially under 60% of the AMI, so that we can support more people who want to live and work here.
Yeah, it's a real scandal all over the country, and I just saw a program on Democracy Now! a week or so ago, which I didn't realize how horrible it's gotten in California.
Oh, yeah.
It's, these high-tech companies come in and the rents go way up, and people, all of a sudden their rent is doubled. They're out in the street. People are becoming homeless who had no idea that this could happen to them.
Absolutely.
Because they just can't afford a place to live.
Yeah.
They have jobs.
It's insane.
It is
It's
insane.
unacceptable is what it is.
It really is. I mean, I'm old enough to remember after the Second World War, when I was a kid, but I was a kid, but the soldiers were coming home, and I happened living in Long Island, Levittown. I lived in Hempstead, and then we moved to Farmingdale, and in between was a whole this village, Levittown, sprung up, hundreds and hundreds of very nicely designed little houses. Some had 2 bedrooms, some had 3. They all had expandable attics, and they were affordable for all these servicemen coming back. And the government was smart. They did not want to have, social unrest with all these soldiers who knew how to shoot. Coming back and not being able to get home after giving their all for 4 or more years for their country. So they built houses like crazy for them. So the government can do it when it makes up its mind to do it. And right now, I guess all these poor people, they feel they don't know how to shoot or something. They're just not paying attention. It's just terrible. But I didn't realize it's been bad ever since I think they emptied out the whole mental health thing, where they emptied out those hospitals and never did what they were supposed to do, provide facilities in group homes and whatever was needed in the communities. And that was when it really got a big push to get bad, but it's been getting bad ever since because we don't pay people enough, and we don't build houses except McMansions now. It's really, really disgraceful. So I'm glad you're on the Housing Advisory Board and see all what you can do. I know land is so expensive here, and I know that it's not an easy problem in
It's not.
built up place like this.
Yeah, and our town really, has put its money where its mouth is. We had the bond and the funds, for affordable housing, and so RSPs will be coming out for that, I think next month sometime, where people can apply for some of the funds out of the $10 million bond that we passed a year or 2 ago, to start working on projects, whether that's new builds or preservation projects or acquiring new spaces to do subsidies or, things like that. There are folks who are doing that work in our community who are committed to it and are doing their best. But like you said, land is scarce and expensive, and so we have to get creative about the ways that we work through this problem. But we cannot stop working on it, and we can't rest on our laurels, and we can't say, oh, we've done a good job, so we, can take a break. We have to keep going, because people who work in this community deserve to live here, and they should be able to live here and afford it and not be paying 50 to 60% of their income just to have an apartment or just to have a mortgage. It should be a reasonable expense, just like everything else.
Exactly. I mean, policemen and teachers, they make a decent salary. It's not as much as it should be.
Oh, no.
But it's a kind of a salary that you would think they'd be able to get an apartment or a house. And it's gotten harder and harder. And and people are commuting from further and further away.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad you're on we'll have to have Dolores Bailey on. We have about once a year we try to get Dolores on and
Yeah.
get an update with her. Yeah, she's been in the trenches for a long time on that issue. Well, Dawna, I'm so glad you're able to come. Our time is almost up, but good for you. Good for you. My hat's off to you. What wonderful energy you have,
Well, thank you.
and putting it in such good places.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. It was
Yeah.
great to talk with you, and I just hope more people have an opportunity to find the thing that is important to them and get involved.
If people want to